You think your life is hard? You think pulling double shifts, or dealing with a rude boss, or surviving on instant noodles is bad? Let me tell you something. Nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to being a resurrection man. Imagine this. You are crouched in the middle of a dark cemetery, the fog wrapping around you like damp linen, your hands frozen around a shovel that weighs heavier with every passing second. The ground beneath you is soaked and heavy. Your ears ring with the sound of your own heartbeat, and every gust of wind makes you flinch as if the dead themselves are rising to defend their graves. Now, ask yourself this question. How far would you go to survive? Would you beg on the streets? Would you steal bread? Would you sell your own body to a factory for 14 hours of sweat and coal dust? Or would you do the unthinkable? Would you dig up freshly buried corpses, haul them out of their coffins like sacks of potatoes, and sell them to surgeons for the price of a week's rent? Because that, my friend, is your reality. You are a resurrection man, also known as a body snatcher. And your job is as disgusting, terrifying, and morally rotten as it sounds. You don't steal jewelry, you don't break into houses. No, you steal the one thing every family guards most dearly. They're dead. Picture this. The city streets by day look ordinary. Bustling markets, children chasing each other, bakers selling loaves of bread. But at night, another world emerges. You slink through alleys, listening for whispers about fresh graves, because timing is everything. Too late, and the body rots, loses value. Too soon, and the mourners might still be watching. The line you walk is razor thin. Profit or prison, bread or starvation, life or death. So, here's the shocker. While society condemns you as the lowest of the low, the truth is this: without you, surgeons and medical students would have nothing to cut open, nothing to learn from. And without that knowledge, medicine itself would crawl instead of sprint. In other words, your filthy hands are secretly fueling the progress of science. But don't get too proud, because every shilling you earn drips with fear, guilt, and the stench of decay. And tonight, as you lower your shovel into the earth and hear the dull thud of wood, you know, this is not just a job. This is a nightmare you may never escape. It is the early 1800s, and the great cities of Britain are choking under their own weight. London's air is thick with soot from coal fires. Edinburgh reeks of sewage and horse dung. Dublin's streets are crowded with beggars, drunkards, and children running barefoot over cobblestones slick with rain. Poverty is everywhere. Life expectancy is short. Disease spreads like wildfire. And yet, in the midst of this grim reality, one thing is advancing at a staggering pace: medicine. Doctors are desperate to learn. Anatomy schools spring up like mushrooms after rain. Students pack lecture halls, craning their necks to see dissections. But there is a problem, a very big one. By law, only the bodies of executed criminals can be used for medical study. That sounds fine, except the hangman doesn't work every day. Executions are irregular, and when they do happen, there are far too few corpses to satisfy the hunger of hundreds of medical students. Think about it. A surgeon wants to teach 20 students how to dissect a human arm. He needs bodies. A doctor wants to practice removing an organ without killing the patient. He needs bodies. But the supply is so limited that an entire black market springs up, ready to meet the demand. That black market is where you come in. You are poor. You have no trade, no family connections, no wealthy patron. Maybe you were a laborer once, carrying sacks at the docks until your back gave out. Maybe you swept chimneys as a boy until you were too big to squeeze through. Maybe you just drifted from odd job to odd job, never making enough to survive the week. Rent collectors knock on your door. Your stomach growls more often than it's full. And then, one night, in a dim tavern lit by smoky oil lamps, you hear a whisper. The surgeons are paying. Fresh corpses. Good money. Easy work, if you have the stomach for it. You laugh at first. Surely it's a joke. But then you hear the price. A single body can fetch more than an honest man earns in a month. Suddenly, it does not sound like a joke at all. Society hates men like you. They call you ghouls, devils, grave robbers. Families hire guards to watch their dead. Iron cages, called mort safes, are placed over graves. Dogs patrol cemeteries. And yet, despite every lock and chain, despite every guard with a musket, bodies disappear. Because you and men like you are always watching, always waiting. You are a resurrection man, and in this world, your shovel is worth more than your conscience. You crouch in the shadows, clutching your shovel so tight that your knuckles ache. The cemetery is silent except for the faint rustle of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. Your partner, a thin man with a scar across his cheek, nods at you. This is it. Tonight, you earn your bread. You begin to dig. The soil is damp and heavy, sticking to your hands, sliding under your nails. Each shovelful feels louder than thunder in your ears. You keep glancing over your shoulder, expecting a lantern's glow or the bark of a guard dog. But the graveyard is still. The only sound is your breath, fast and shallow, as the hole deepens inch by inch. Finally, your shovel thuds against wood. The coffin. The moment always makes your heart pound harder. You scrape the last bits of earth away, exposing the lid. Your partner works quickly, prying it open with an iron hook. And there it is, the body. The stench hits you instantly. It is sweet, foul, suffocating. You gag and turn your head, but you force yourself back to the task. You slide the rope under the corpse's shoulders and heave. The body rises awkwardly, limbs dangling like a puppet with broken strings. Its head lolls to one side, eyes half shut as though it has caught you in the act of your crime. You try not to look. You try not to think. To you, this is no longer a person. This is merchandise. Flesh for science. Your survival wrapped in decaying skin. The hardest part is carrying it. The sack is heavy and slippery. Every step you take toward the waiting cart feels like a mile. You imagine the watchman turning the corner, his lantern beam landing on you, his musket raised. The thought of prison, or worse, being lynched by an angry mob makes your stomach twist. But tonight, you are lucky. You and your partner load the body onto the cart, cover it with straw, and head toward the anatomy school. The next morning, the surgeons don't ask questions. They hand you a pouch of coins. The silver clinks in your palm, heavier than you expected. Heavier than your guilt. That money will buy bread, ale, maybe even a warm fire for once. And yet, as you walk away, you cannot shake the feeling of cold eyes staring at your back. Not every night is smooth. Sometimes you find the coffin filled with rocks, the family having tricked you by burying their loved one in secret. Sometimes the wood is nailed so tight it takes hours to pry open, by which time dawn is breaking and you're forced to flee. Sometimes the grave is guarded, and you spend the night lying flat in the grass, mud soaking into your clothes, waiting for your chance. And then there are the mobs. You have seen what happens when a resurrection man is caught. People spit on him, beat him, drag him through the streets by his hair. They call him a monster, a thief of souls. You once watched a man nearly hanged from a lamppost for trying to sell a body that turned out to be someone's recently buried child. The surgeons never came to his defense. They never do. They need the bodies, yes, but they will never admit to hiring men like you. You are a shadow, a dirty secret, a cog in the machine of progress that no one wants to acknowledge. The worst part is not the fear. It is the guilt. Lying awake at night in your narrow, flea-bitten bed, you think of the families you have robbed. A widow sobbing into her hands because her husband's grave has been disturbed. Parents clutching their child's empty coffin. You tell yourself, it is for science. It is for medicine. It is for the greater good. But the words sound hollow. And still, you keep going. Because hunger is louder than guilt. Because when your stomach growls and your rent is due, the only thing that matters is the silver coin that comes from the surgeon's hand. So you return, again and again, to the graveyard. Each time swearing it will be the last. Each time digging deeper into the mud, and deeper into the darkness of your own soul. The longer you live this life, the worse it gets. At first, it was just a grave here, a corpse there, quick, quiet, enough to fill your belly. But soon, the surgeons want more. They are no longer satisfied with the occasional delivery. They need regular supply, steady and fresh. They push harder, and you are forced to push yourself deeper into danger. And you are not alone. Other resurrection men haunt the city like hungry wolves, and competition grows violent. Entire gangs form, each staking out cemeteries like turf. You hear stories of men fighting with shovels and knives over who has the right to a body. Some are stabbed, some beaten to death, their corpses ironically ending up on the very anatomy tables they once supplied. The work is no longer just disgusting, it is deadly. Then comes the whisper that chills your blood. Some men are no longer waiting for the dead. They are creating them. The names Burke and Hare spread like wildfire through the taverns. Two Irishmen in Edinburgh who discovered that it was easier to supply the surgeons by suffocating the living than by digging up the dead. They lured in lodgers, drunks, and beggars. They pressed pillows over mouths, held down flailing limbs, and delivered the still warm corpses to anatomy schools. For each body, they received £10, more money than most workers would see in half a year. You hear the stories, and your stomach knots. On one hand, you understand the temptation. No digging, no guards, no risk of mobs, just quick cash. On the other, you feel sick. Because this is not grave robbing anymore. This is murder. And when the law finally caught Burke and Hare, the punishment was brutal. Hare betrayed Burke to save his own skin, and Burke was hanged before a jeering crowd. His corpse was dissected in public, his skin flayed and bound into books still displayed in Edinburgh today. The irony is not lost on you. That could have been you. It still could. One night, you almost meet the same fate. You and your partner are halfway through hauling a body from the ground when a lantern's glow sweeps over the cemetery. A shout rings out. Grave robbers! The air explodes with chaos, dogs barking, men running, muskets raised. You drop the rope and sprint, mud sucking at your boots. Your partner stumbles and falls, and for a moment you think he is finished. Somehow, you drag him up and the two of you scramble over the wall as gunshots crack behind you. You run until your lungs burn, until your legs shake, until the city swallows you again. And when you finally stop, covered in filth, chest heaving, you realize just how close you came to ending up in chains, or in a coffin of your own. That night, lying awake in your filthy bed, you finally face the truth. You are trapped. You can never go back to honest work. The money is too tempting, the demand too high. But you can never escape the fear either. Every shadow looks like a watchman. Every whisper sounds like betrayal. Every coin in your pocket feels heavier than the shovel you carry. You have become what they all say you are: a ghoul, a fiend, a thief of the dead. And the worst part is not that society despises you. The worst part is that, deep down, you despise yourself. So, this is your life. Night after night, shovel in hand, mud on your boots, fear in your gut. You are not remembered as a craftsman, not respected as a worker, not cherished as a neighbor. You are whispered about as a monster, a resurrection man. And yet, here's the cruel paradox. Without you, medicine itself might have stalled. Without the corpses you delivered, surgeons would not have learned how to mend broken bones, how to map veins and arteries, how to cut out tumors, how to save lives. Every time a modern doctor holds a scalpel today, every time a student learns the anatomy of the human body, there's a shadow of you in the room. The ghoul in the cemetery who made it possible. But none of that redeems you in the eyes of society. To them, you are forever cursed. Your coins will never be clean. Your soul will never be at peace. Families pray at the graves of their dead, hoping you are not lurking nearby. Mothers weep as they lock their children's coffins in iron cages. And when you walk through the marketplace, heads turn, not because they know who you are, but because somehow you still smell faintly of the grave. In time, the law changes. The Anatomy Act of 1832 finally provides legal access to unclaimed bodies, ending the golden age of body snatching. But by then, it is too late for you. Your name is not recorded in history books. No one writes down your deeds. You vanish, just as the corpses you stole vanished, into the shadows of history. The surgeons move on. The students move on. The world moves on. And you are left behind, a forgotten figure buried in shame. So, how terrible is it to be a resurrection man? Terrible enough that your life is worth less than the corpses you steal. Terrible enough that every breath you take tastes like dirt and guilt. Terrible enough that when death finally comes for you, the only comfort you have is the hope that, for once, no one will dig up your grave. And now I'll ask you, would you trade your dignity, your soul, and the eternal peace of others just for a few coins in your pocket? Or would you rather starve than live as the ghoul who robbed the dead? Tell me in the comments, whose life do you want to live next? Hit subscribe, because the darkest corners of history still have stories to tell, and you don't want to miss them.